Welcome,
Welcome.
Housewives of True Crime. Happy Monday, except for we never hardly ever record on a weekend, but it is Saturday for us people because we had to get through the Murdaugh trials all the way before we could record.
Yeah, and I would like to apologize to the people because, people kept talking to us about the Murdaughs, and we were like, I don't know, it seems kind of dark. Maybe we're not into it.
Yeah.
We're dumb. Okay. We are so dumb. We are so into it now. It's stupid.
It's true. It just seemed like so overwhelming, right? At first. And then we had been told about this case since the boat crash. Not even when he was found on the side of the road. So it was like one thing after another and another. And you know how Gretchen and I are, as soon as we get into it, it's like all that consumes our life. And I think we were a little scared of that.
Yeah.
And then it happened. And so, yes, I was able to find out there was two reasons we're recording on a Saturday. It's because during the trial, when the jury came back, I was in my storm shelter because there was a tornado rolling through the Dallas area. And I made my kids all sit there and watch YouTube live to see it. And then my power went out for 36 hours or something. So we couldn't record.
So annoying.
And it came back on late last night. And so here we are today to give it all to you.
Yeah, she tried complaining to me about this whole storm shelter business while I was being tortured. I think even more so because I was on a sleepaway field trip.
You were again on that damn boat.
On the damn boat for the other kid. That's the problem with having twins. Got to do everything twice. Yes.
Yes. Okay. So you were on that boat, and basically, I think we were in the same kind of situation. You probably did have power, which I didn't, but
I did get some side eyes because you're supposed to be back in like 1836 or something, so they give you this whole lecture about, no phones out, no blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, but the Murdaugh trial verdict is coming
You're
in.
like, wait, no, this is.
I'm like, you have to text me because I can't be seen like looking at like TMZ. I have to be able to be like, oh, it's something really important. That's why I'm looking at my phone.
She was like, I can't use my phone. Please text as soon as you know.
Yeah.
And so anyways, we'll get into all of that in just a minute, but we've had a couple really crazy few days. But okay, so listen, if anybody has back problems, which Gretchen, you have had back problems before. I have been having this problem with my upper back for probably, I would say 6 months now. And it kind of goes on and off. Some reason when we're on vacation, it goes away, which it's like, well, maybe because I'm not stressed on vacation and whatever. But
I would say that's not true because sometimes you're more stressed out on vacation.
It's so true. It's so true. There's a lot more to have to do on vacation. I'm expected to perform a little bit on a higher standards on vacation, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And so anyhow, and you're with your kids 24/7, which is
stressful.
Okay. But my back doesn't hurt. So I told my husband it's the bed. And I know is just thinking like that is an expensive back problem because you got to get a new mattress and those things are not cheap. But please tell me, everybody, what mattress is the best for the upper back, because that's where my issue is in the upper
first of all,
shoulder.
I think you need, I see those mattress commercials all the time. They have like a
sleep setting,
like a really long guarantee. Yeah, I know, but they have like a guarantee. Like you can have the mattress for a year. So that's what you need. You need one of those if it's not working for me, I can send it back to you.
I think I have the memory foam and it's not good.
You have to start with like a good back. So you need to go get some massages, like get it all.
I've been going to the chiropractor every day, by the way. And then that's what my husband said, because last night I slept on the couch just to see. And he goes, you don't think it's because you've been going to the chiropractor every day? And I'm like, yeah, a little.
Yeah, I think a little too, because I think if those chiropractors can't work out in like one or two cracks, then I think they like get you addicted and then you have to keep coming back. So then I think sometimes they do more damage than good. Not all chiropractors, but some of them are chiro crooks.
Chiro crooks. They're like, I did see my x-rays. My shoulders are one's higher than the other and all this stuff. So anyways, whatever. I'm going to get it figured out. But I think the mattress is the main culprit.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I also, you know how I had strep throat going around? I like reinfected my child because I didn't change out his toothbrush head and he forgot to use the throwaway toothbrush. And
can you like reinfect yourself right after?
Okay. Listen, I thought that was hocus pocus, whatever the doctor told me me that. And I was like, oh, yeah, right. Dude, no shit. Like, I was like, how did this happen again? He was like, I used my toothbrush. I was like, it's true. True.
You know, I'm actually impressed that your kid did brush his teeth, because you know how it works around my house. Every once in a while, I mean, my girls are pretty good. Actually, they're almost too good. They like put their brother in check and are like, come in here and clean up the toilet seat. You have pee on it, you know, like whatever. But the boy will sporadically come up and blow his breath in your face.
Oh, no. And it's awful.
No.
Oh.
And it's good. He does it to show you that he brushed his teeth.
teeth.
And you're like, damn it, I don't think you've done that blow in my face thing for like a month.
I make sure they all brush their teeth. I'm like, that is pretty important.
I do tell them, but I'm not very good at the follow through.
Yeah. I'm usually not good at follow through with anything. So brushing your teeth is good. But my kids, I'll tell you, they do not want to take a shower ever. The boys are
like, it's torture.
It's torture. I'm like, you guys, it feels so good to take a shower. Seriously. That's my thing. And then I'm like, they don't have to take a shower every day. Fine. They're boys. It doesn't really matter. And, you know, although my son did get sick twice in the last week, I think that they don't get sick that often because of it.
You do?
I do. Yeah. I think that
we got a situation around here because my son doesn't want to be wearing the chonies.
Your kids don't ever want to wear chonies.
I'm like, you have to be wearing them to school. And so he was like on it for like 2 days. And then I'm like, have you been wearing underwears? He's like, yeah. I'm like, liar.
You're like, I do the laundry.
And I only found one pair, buddy.
Oh my gosh. And you're like, I hope you do not take a shower and wear the same pair over and over and over again. So.
Oh, so funky.
Yeah.
Okay.
Boys are boys.
Talk about something more not funky.
Oh, no, this is funky.
Oh,
this is as funky as it gets, but let's get into it. Okay. Like we said, 1 million of you have asked us to cover this case. And since we already also told you it's the Murdaugh murders, and the way they say Murdaugh is all kinds of which ways. So, you know, they say Murdaugh. Well, how do you want to pronounce it, Gretch?
I think we ought to say it like from the words of Alec himself, Murdaugh and Papa.
Murdaugh. Oh my God. Puke.
Listen, and we know this case is like everywhere and oversaturated. So I think we're going to try and put our own, like, our personal takeaways.
Yes. Okay. So some of you have commented on our Facebook group that you don't really know about it and you're interested in hearing. So that's great. I had a hard time finding anything that was one wrap up real quick, one episode type of thing, except like, you know, the Netflix was 3 episodes, HBO was 3 episodes. The podcasts that are on it are multiple episodes. So I just wanted
to bang my head against the wall.
I just wanted to wrap it up in one fair swoop of an episode. But the crimes, and it's multiple crimes, right? There's like a lot of shit that these people have. They have a lot of skeletons in their closet, this family. But I'm going to condense it for you, put it in a nice wrapped 1-hour episode. And so I think that all of you out there that have done a ton of research, have watched the entire trial, know way more than I'm going to say. Just know that I'm putting the facts out that I think are pertinent to the case. There are a lot of facts, but I'm not going to talk about all of them. Also, it's a little bit different of an episode because Gretchen does know about this case. So we're going to talk about it together.
Yes.
Instead of just me telling her things that she doesn't know, because she does know, which is kind of fun. It's more of like that Scott Peterson episode that we did.
Oh God, don't say his name. Then it starts coming.
Don't come at you. Okay. Who knows? Some people might even think that this one went the wrong way.
Listen, for the record, I never said he's like totally innocent. I just said he deserves a retrial.
Okay, I think you might be right on that. He did get death penalty, right?
He got the death sentence changed. Yeah.
He did get it changed, but that was his original verdict, which, by the way, probably shouldn't have been. It should have been life in prison. To me, they're the same thing, especially in California, but you know, maybe they go to a different place.
Alec Murdaugh got life.
I know. And, you know, the judge said that he could have been, it was a death sentence case. Like he could have given him the death sentence. So, okay. So let's go back and start with the Murdaugh family. This family's legacy goes way back, but we are going to specifically talk about Alec Murdaugh, or that's what he goes by, Alec, even though that's not even his name, but okay. Maggie Murdaugh, which is the wife, and their two sons, Paul and Buster. By the way, what do you think of that name, Buster? I think I would.
Well, that's not really his name. His name is really Alex or something.
Right.
But it's one of those things. Buster, Bubba, whatever. It's like,
well, that's what's his great grandpa's name.
It doesn't sound very professional to me.
No, but that's what
I feel like. Buster is like the security guard at a rodeo.
It's like
I
Bubba.
do not feel like it's like a Bubba name. I don't feel like Buster is the lawyer he was trying to be. It's not a good name. I don't want Lawyer Buster.
Yeah, but Lawyer Buster.
I want Buster to cook my barbecue ribs.
Right. But Buster was. Previously, there was a Buster that was the town solicitor years and years prior. So that's where he got his nickname from.
Okay.
So Alec, you don't have to like it. And I think in current times, I would probably forego the Buster also.
I think a lot of people make the mistake of giving their kids names that are just like, yeah, it's a real cute little kid name, but how does that shake out when you're adult?
Okay, well, listen, my daughter plays volleyball with a girl and her nickname is Butter, and that is what they call her. Like, there is no other name that they call her. I don't even know her first name.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Butter is necessarily a good name as a teenager.
Yeah,
it's
even
probably cute as like
my
a
kids
baby.
go to school with a little girl named Poppy, which I think is like the cutest name.
Mm-hmm.
But I just don't know if it like Poppy for president. I don't think it's a real power name.
It's definitely not. And that's probably her real name. Like, at least Butter.
It is her real name. Yeah,
at least Butter has a real
cute
name.
Yeah.
Okay. I do like the name Poppy. It's very cute.
It is really cute.
But it's cute for a baby or a little kid. Okay. So anyways, Alec and Maggie, they were a prominent couple in the low country of South Carolina. If you are not familiar with this area, I wouldn't be surprised because I wasn't familiar either. It's a cluster of small counties grouped together in the southern part of South Carolina. According to Southern Living magazine, it consists of Beaufort, Jasper, Colleton is how they say it, I think, and Hampton counties. However, some say that they push it further up to include Charleston and Paisley Island. When I was reading this article in this magazine, it felt like if you were part of like the low country, you were in the bougier area. I could be wrong. I really don't know.
Interesting, because I thought North Carolina is supposed to be. I could get confused. I do have a friend from the Carolinas, and I know when you confuse the two, she gets real like record scratch.
Yeah, I also have a friend too, and then it's like. I'm like, oh shit, I don't know. I've never been there, but whatever way it is, I think that this little area has a class system, and where you have the rich and powerful, and then you have the lower middle class that some would consider poor side of country folk. But whether you are rich or poor, you are country.
Yeah.
The Murdaughs were rich and powerful ones in the low country, and they, by all accounts, played that lifestyle up. They owned multiple houses. They traveled to exotic lands. They owned boats. They loved to hunt and fish. And they also owned a law firm. And they also did control that land for over 100 years. You see, in 1910, great-great-great-grandpa something Murdaugh started a law firm in the area. From there, his son, Randolph Murdaugh Sr., ran and won the open solicitor seat in 1920. So a solicitor, which is something I also did not know what it was. Did you know before this case?
No.
A solicitor is a district attorney who prosecutes all criminal cases in that jurisdiction, which included 5 counties. So it's a pretty powerful position, I would say. Mm-hmm. They are real high-powered individuals.
For that area.
And they consume all things law. I mean, they prosecute every single criminal case. Okay, so this great-grandpa, he died in a car accident in 1941, and that's when his son took over until 1986, and then his son took over, who is Alec Murdaugh's father, and he held that position until 2005, and he left the solicitor position and joined his family's law firm. That brings us back to the start of that at 1910. Okay, so you can see this family's legacy goes way back, and they were known in all law enforcement. Even this judge that came, he must have been brought in from a different jurisdiction to oversee this trial, but even he knew who they were. He was like, listen, we have been in the same areas. I can't believe I'm sitting here with you as the defendant, as the criminal in this case. So anyways, and the judge said that because look at this family looked like a picture perfect family when you see all those pictures, right? It's the two sons, the mother in her fancy clothes, the attorney dad, Alec, all buttoned up, Buster.
I don't trust people that be tucking their shirts in all the time. If you don't have like a single picture untucked, I'm not with it.
Dude, I had a friend back in California and the mom was telling me she wanted to take photos like on the beach for their Christmas card. And the dad would not ever do it. And he had to wear a blue suit in every single family photo. That's it.
Divorce.
I don't think you would even have married that. Never. I know you. Okay. So Buster was the oldest son and he was following in his father's footsteps. Paul, the younger son, well, he was a bit of a wild one. He was attending college in 2019, but it wasn't look like he was going for the town solicitor seat anytime soon, as this kid liked to party. And by the ripe old age of 19, I think he already had a drinking problem, which seems so foreign, have a drinking problem that early. However, when I look back, I'm like, oh yeah, we could tell who had drinking problems at that time in our friend group. Mm-hmm. And some of them are now dead because of it.
True.
So this drinking problem, I would say, led to uncovering his family's legacy and the legacy of secrets, because it all started when a tragic accident happened the night of February 23rd, 2019, when a group of Paul's friends and their girlfriends went to go to a party. Paul decided he would take his family's boat upriver to the party so they could bypass any DUI checkpoints that night. I'm sure the girls were not pleased because getting on a boat messes up your hair, but they are 19, so they just went along with their boyfriends because that's kind of what we do at 19. Although maybe not anymore. Me and you would do it.
I don't know. I was never cool with like, I don't like drunk driving and I don't like drunk driving on boats.
Well, no, but I'm saying just like doing shit.
So it's like if the point is to avoid like, so we can be drunk and then you're going to like drink and drive on a boat. It's like, that's like a worse to me.
Listen, I'm not saying that. I don't think either. Oh, dude, like I would never get in cars with people that were drunk because
never.
So much so that I was 17 or no, I didn't even have my license yet. So I must have been like 15. I went to the movie theater outside. What's that called? Drive-in with this guy and he was drinking beers and I didn't know how to drive, much less a stick shift at this time. And I was like, I'm not going home with you. He was like, what? I'm like, I'm not, you just drank beers. He's like, I'm not drunk. I'm like, I don't care. So I had to drive. He's like, fine, drive my truck home. And I think it took me like 5 times to get through one stoplight because I couldn't get it out of the clutch out.
Oh my God.
So no, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that we would go on a boat when we didn't want to get our hair messed up with our boyfriends because we just did shit like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, so these girls did know that there was going to be alcohol involved because Paul goes to the gas station and buys some beers with his brother's ID and they get on the boat and they're partying all the way up to the party. At the party, Paul is doing beer bongs and he gets super sloshed. At the end of the party, most of the 6-pack of kids didn't want to go home in Paul's boat. They did want to Uber because it was clear that Paul was too drunk to be driving that boat. Paul says, no, he can't leave his boat there and he needs to get it back to the dock that they guys brought it in. So the 5 friends are really not into going back on the boat, but they do it anyways.
Which is kind of interesting because it is like what they all say was there was no arguing with him. He was just a real asshole. He was like this entitled dickhead that was like, if you guys don't do this, I'm going to throw some kind of fucking fit, power trippy little shit. And so they all just were like, well, it's probably easier than dealing with the repercussions of whatever he's going to do.
And Paul brought the fun, right? Paul had the toys. Paul had the hunting house. Paul had all this stuff. So you didn't want to make him mad because you wanted to enjoy the fun. right?
Well, and he was so much so, like, I'm not exaggerating him being a dickhead. He was so much so a dickhead that night when his girlfriend asked him to not drive the boat, he slapped her and spit on her.
Yeah, he did that. I think his girlfriend put up with a lot of stuff before this because of what I just said. Like, they took her on vacations and they did all this nice stuff for her. And so she just dealt with his bad behavior instead of putting him in check, you know?
Yeah.
But along the way, Paul wants to stop at a bar and he gets even more drunk. And that's when he turned into what they called Timmy, right? They said when he gets wasted, he turns into somebody else. And that's also when he spit and slapped on his girlfriend because they did not want him driving. He started doing shit like donuts in the middle of the river. I have seen people that do stupid stuff like this when they're drunk. I personally would think if I got in a car and or a boat or something, I would be so freaking nervous that I would like be driving like a grandma, you know? But there are other people that just think life doesn't end.
Yeah.
And you can do whatever the hell you wanted. And that is what Paul did. And so people tried to take over the wheel. They were getting really angry with him. And instead of him, you know, just saying like, you're right, you know, Cody, take over the wheel or whatever. He decides to get pissed at his girlfriend and then guns it. And as he gunned it, he slammed the boat into a bridge. And you can imagine all 6 of these teenagers went flying. Everyone was hurt. But one girl, Mallory Beach, she was missing. She was thrown out of the boat and it was too dark for them to see. And the river is fast. Her boyfriend immediately jumps in the water. The other kids call 911. Damian put the 911 tape in here. So you can hear, I mean, it was crazy. Once the officers arrive, they take the kids to the hospital, except for the boyfriend, Mallory's boyfriend, because he refuses to leave until they find Mallory. Also, on the body cam footage that I'm going to play right now, he is so pissed at Paul.
Okay.
I rode around with Paul for 2 hours this afternoon in the pickup truck.
That's your son, Paul? Okay.
Somebody going to check him?
Yes, sir. They've already checked him.
They did check him?
Yes, sir.
This is official that they're dead?
Yes, sir. That's what it looks like.
You can also hear him saying like, Murdaugh, that's Murdaugh. Good luck. You know, and what he means is just that, like, this kid is not going to be held accountable for his actions because those Murdaughs never are. They were known for getting away with anything, and talk on the street was that the Murdaughs can make you disappear. And I think it's true.
Yeah.
This family have tried so many capital murder cases that they did make people disappear. They held the death penalty on so many people. And by the way, probably people that were innocent.
Yeah.
Okay. So back at the hospital, Paul has since called his grandfather, who shows up with his dad. And these two immediately go to work covering up for their son. I mean, God forbid Paul would be held responsible of a death of a young, beautiful girl. They tried to pin it on another boy that was in the boat, who actually tried to drive the boat, but Paul wouldn't let him. They went room to room acting as their attorneys, which is so freaking bananas to me. And then they tried to tell all of them not to say that Paul was driving. Well, who the fuck was driving if Paul wasn't driving?
They just thought that they could create enough confusion that they would never be able to prove that Paul was driving the boat, and this would just go away. Because that's what how it usually works for them, is problems just go away. It is mind-blowing that you do not see an ounce of compassion come out of them for this little girl, Mallory, who it's small town, you know, like they've probably known since was a child.
Yes, I'm sure they have. And you know what? Also, it's not just the dad and the grandpa, it's Paul himself, and it's the mom. The mom gets in the car with the boyfriend's mom at one point, remember? And she's like, she just has no compassion whatsoever. Her face is just like, well, what if they don't find her? It's like, what? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? We are missing a teenage girl here. I mean, we as just podcasters that talk about this stuff, I mean, you don't even know these people, right? But when we do cases, sometimes we get very emotional because it is so sad. And especially for this girl, I mean, she had her life just at the fingertips of life. She just had so much more to live. So it was really sad. They ended up finding Mallory Beach over a week later, 5 miles down the river. And so technically Paul is a murderer at this point. And by the way, I mean, there was no denying that Paul was the driver. It just, the kids were not going to lie for him at the end of the day. And the way that everybody fell out of the boat, it's like Paul was driving. So he was indicted on 3 felony counts and he was set to go to trial, but he never actually stepped foot in a jail cell, which is crazy. He never was handcuffed. And his booking photo is like in his collared shirt, which people say is just, it's crazy. You never see that. I don't know. I mean, I have never seen that, but it's also a small town. Maybe there's more than one that have not in a jumpsuit. I don't know. I don't know.
Just side note though, if God forbid one of my kids was in this situation and they did something stupid like drive and one of their friends was missing or something, the last thing on my mind would be, what repercussions is going to happen for my kid? Like, of course, yeah, you're going to jail. Something is happening, but the bigger picture is somebody's dead.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to get my kid out of it. I'm sorry. Like, I will love you, visit you, put all the commissary money, but you have got to be accountable. If I get you out of it, you're going to the hot place for sure. There is no chance.
Well, I can understand,
this is where we always differ. This is where we always differ.
We do.
But I am going to hold my children accountable.
Yes.
You call me when you're drunk, but you get your ass in jail. I'm not bailing you out if you did something to harm somebody else.
I think that we have to make sure that our kids do not drive drunk. There is no reason. I mean, just in this case alone, they're like, we could have Ubered. Well, no shit. Then you Uber. Do not get in that car. Do not get in that boat. Do not put yourself in that position.
Well, it
matter what.
It really is a cautionary tale for all of us that what we can do to pass this on is the fact is every single person on that boat was drinking. And the game plan was to let this person who they knew had a drinking problem drive them home. And I'm not blaming any of them because I certainly made dumb decisions, when I was that age too. But what we all need to get in the habit of doing is have a safe plan to get home.
Yeah.
From the get,
From the get, right. Because they did know
before you start drinking and you're not thinking clearly too.
Yes. And you know that Timmy comes out. So let's not put Timmy in the position to try to get you home. Yes, I agree. And they all were underage, but also, I mean, we drank when we were underage, allegedly, not really, come for me. But, people do it. So we can't hide the fact that people do drink underage. I don't think that is the biggest deal in this, but it is a big deal that we are letting somebody that we know has a drinking problem drive us.
Yeah.
Okay. So the fact that all that, that he didn't go to jail, didn't have handcuffs, all that, it rubbed people the wrong way. It was like the Murdaugh get out of jail free card playing right in front of everybody's eyes in a state of, it's just so heartbreaking when a young person dies. And I think that's really where everybody was like, what? Of course he gets off. But Paul he was going to go to trial. We do not know how the trial was going to play out because
the trial date had not even been set. So we don't know actually if it was really going to go to trial. And what Mallory Beach's mother has said is, because they've lived around this arrogance for so long, is all she wanted was to see him get on the stand and say sorry. She didn't even care what they did to him.
He was never going to do that.
Yeah, that's what's sad.
This family, I don't think, is sorry for anything. I don't know if it's the legacy of putting people behind bars and probably knowing that some of them aren't actually guilty, getting rid of people that you don't want to see anymore. I don't know if it's just in their genes or what it is, but they don't give a shit. And you can see it. You could see it play out at that trial the entire time. I mean, we'll get to this, but Buster doesn't even freaking cry, doesn't even talk for his mom's behalf. There's no empathy whatsoever. And I don't know how you can live like that. How can you raise somebody like that? I don't know. So anyways, there was a date scheduled for him not to go to trial, but there was some sort of court hearing coming up, but Paul unfortunately never made it to that because shortly before that court hearing, he and his mother were brutally murdered on June 7th, 2021. So I'll get into the brutal murder, but let's talk about what happened between 2019 when he killed Mallory until 2021 when he was found murdered. Well, there was a whole year of a pandemic. So I think that's like a bust of a year, right? They probably were with each other a little too much. I can imagine that at this point is when Paul and Maggie got real annoyed with Alex's pill problem. Because as we know, I say Alex or Alec, same person, but the dad had a pill problem that both Paul and Maggie knew about. So I'm like, remember in 2020, I mean, we didn't leave the house. I'm sure it was a little different in South Carolina than.
Well, Paul did actually leave the house. Do you know that I just read that he went boating regularly? Can you imagine your son is awaiting trial for killing someone in a boat in a small town. And you're like, yeah, son, go take the boat out.
You know what? I can, because in those tapes of Alec talking to Buster from prison, he asked Buster if he wants to go back basically to the crime scene to go hunting.
Because those deer have not, eaten any of that food in those stands. So they're just prime.
They're just prime. I mean, Buster, do you want to go out to where your brother and mother were brutally murdered and they had to scrape up the brains off the floor? And then do you want to go shoot some animals? Because that wouldn't be fucking traumatizing.
Right.
I mean, how, my mind is just blown. I'm how, you are the worst human I can ever.
They are.
Ever.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyways, I guess he's boating on the boat, doesn't give a shit that he just killed somebody on probably that same boat that he's taking out. But anyhow, I know that Maggie and Paul found more and more pills. Paul, I guess, was called a little detective by his mom. Also, this pill problem stemmed back further from 2020. I could think we all could probably pop a couple too many pills in 2020, but this pill problem went long before that. And actually, their old housekeeper, nanny, she was kind of like a housekeeper. She was Paul's nanny when he was a baby and younger, but then became a housekeeper kind of after that.
So kind of an extended part of the family. They didn't want to get rid of her. She had a close relationship with them. It's said that the boys really adored her. She'd been with them for 20 years.
20 years. She also found pills and she passed away in 2018 from injuries that happened at the house. And I will tell you about that in a second. But we also know that Maggie started distancing herself from Alec during this time before these murders. They had multiple properties, like I said, and she started staying at one that Alec wasn't staying at. Her friends claim that she possibly was going to get the big D, and I mean divorce, right? So the Murdaughs then get sued by Mallory's family, rightfully so. And they also have this criminal case ahead for Paul. And so a lot of stuff's going on,
and it's
right?
important to say the reason why Mallory's family was suing civilly was because no one was charging Paul with anything. And if they brought on a civil suit, then all the kids in the boat would have to be deposed.
Mm-hmm.
So they were really just doing it because they just wanted some accountability.
Listen, I think they have every right to sue.
Yeah,
I would sue.
Yeah.
Also, you have taken away my life. You are going to fucking pay however I can get you to pay. And at that point, they're like, this is the only way I can get them to pay because they're not doing anything in the courts. They own the courts. So I can at least civilly sue them and something has to be done, right?
Make the truth come out. Yeah.
Yes. All right. So now let me tell you what happened June 7th, 2021. That was the day Paul and Maggie were murdered. Maggie gets a call from Alex to meet at a property that they call the Moselle property, which is not where she had been staying. So that's a little sus. She told her friends that day that it was strange that Alex wanted her to go out there and she thought he was up to something. Now, I don't think she thought he was going to kill her, but she probably thought he needed to talk to her about some bank document or some shit, right? I know she had said that to her housekeeper that Alex's dad was really sick, and so maybe it was something about that. So anyways, the Moselle property was their hunting property. It was really big, 1,800 acres. And they had dog kennels. It's this area on the property where they had working dogs in kennels, and these are like hunting dogs. They also boarded their friends' dogs there. Paul loved this property. He spent a lot of time there with his friends and family, and he would hunt and fish and probably have a shit ton of fun, I can imagine. It was a great place to hang. That particular night, we know that Alex and Paul were there for a short time before Maggie arrived. So Paul, I think, was there from about 7 o'clock. Maggie arrives at around 8 o'clock. We know that Paul was there with his dad chatting away near the dog kennels at around 7 because Paul Snapchatted his dad, and his dad was wearing khakis and a blue shirt. Okay, so make note of that.
You know, one thing I do want to interject is because I was not clear about this during the trial and everything, I kind of had to look it up myself, is that the dog kennels are a pretty good distance from the house.
Yes, like
they're not close. Like Maggie would take like a golf cart or whatever down there. So it's like, it's a mission to get there.
Yes. I mean, you could walk there, but you're not going to be walking there if you have a golf cart at hand.
Or if it's at night. Yeah.
Or at night. Yeah. So Maggie arrives at about 8. They eat dinner, according to Alex. And then after they ate, he took a nap while Maggie and Paul went out to the dog kennels. According to Alec, he hopped up from his nap just after 9 o'clock and decided to go check on his mother, who had dementia, at a place they called Almeida. So he calls Maggie a bunch of times, like 4 or 5 times, and he calls Paul, and then he texts Maggie, and what he says is going to check on Ima or something like that. Be back soon, okay? When he returns at 10:01, he calls Maggie with no answer. So he goes up to the dog kennel area where he finds his son and wife brutally shot to death, and he calls 911 at 10:06. This is the story that he gave police over and over and over. Very calm, very concisely from the get. He's interviewed hours, just hours. I mean, like what he calls at 10, they interview him in a cop car at 1 a.m. And I'm going to play that for you right now.
I left to go to my mom's. She had said she might ride with me, but she normally doesn't when I go over there. And I think I texted her.
So, he says, I had dinner and I did not go to the dog kennels. I think it has something to do with his boating accident. And he is not, like every interview. Have you watched all these interviews? He's so calm.
Well, it's interesting that he would bring up the boating accident right away. One of the things that I was just watching Maggie's sister's testimony is that she says in the day that followed, they were all like scared. They were scared for Alex. They were scared for Buster. They were scared for themselves. Like, gosh, we got to find who did this because it's so
as
clearly somebody did this on
Yeah.
purpose. Who knows who else
be.
they want to kill.
Right.
And she says he was not concerned.
No, he wasn't.
About that. He wasn't concerned about that. In fact, the thing that came out of his mouth was he was concerned more about clearing Paul's name for the boating accident than he was about finding out who killed him.
Yeah, that is very telling. They also said that the whole family was like, we have to find out who is doing this. And they were calling the police and they were calling to see what kind of evidence they had and who was like the lead suspects. And Alec was never calling to figure it out. And we've done a lot of cases or a handful enough that we know when the spouse is not calling to find out, it usually comes down to the fact that the spouse did it. If somebody killed my loved ones, especially my children, I would not get off the phone until I had every detail. Like you would have to bring me the murder suspect or I would call every day. And he didn't do that. He didn't. Okay. So media picks up that story right away. Once those two are murdered, Nancy Grace was all over it. She did say on her show, she says it's an angry vigilante that, was mad that Paul killed Mallory. But what everybody didn't know at this time was that there were so many skeletons about to come out on Alec. And you know what? Police didn't really know either, right? So I'm sure at first that they kind of thought it might be some crazy person that wants to kill this family.
Well, they still, even though they'd had kind of a fall from grace, they still didn't treat him like they would have treated anybody else. They didn't haul his ass down to the station.
Who?
and
Alec?
say, and say the police. Yeah, Alec.
But he
yeah.
hadn't really had a fall from grace yet, or not that the police knew. Yes, it was about to come out, but they didn't know.
Yeah,
that Alec.
that people hated the family because of the boating accident. But
Oh, right. But
yeah,
still, that was the
he
kid.
He still wasn't treated. Yeah, so he still wasn't. He wasn't treated like a normal.
No, dude,
criminal
you
would have been
always
treated.
look at like the husband first. But I guess he has like an alibi. He was at his mom's house, like supposedly. He even says, look at my phone. I called Maggie at this time. And so, but they don't know all this fall from grace that he's about to have. They don't know that Alex is actually in a ton of debt. They don't know his life is hidden volcano about to erupt. They, just like everybody else, I think, were thinking like, fuck, dude, it's some crazy person, because 2 guns were used, an AR and a shotgun. So presumably you would think there were 2 killers. Alex's friends rallied around him at this time. They even helped him with his financial troubles. They bailed him out. They loaned him money. Did you know that? I mean, that's like,
no.
Yeah, they did right after. I think like a couple $100,000 more were loaned out to him. But less than 3 months goes by and Alex's money troubles are reaping their dirty little head, because the friends and family realize that, yes, they kind of realized that he was stealing money from his law firm, but I don't think they realized until this point that it was millions, and they were about to fire his ass on September 3rd. That very next day, he gets confronted by a friend that he owes a couple $100,000 from. And ironically, Alex gets a flat tire that day on the side of the road. And while he's changing a tire, because I can really see this guy in khaki pants and a fucking button up tucked in, changing his own tire, this person pulls up on the side of the road, some random stranger, and shoots him in the head. I mean, sure, if the family has somebody coming after them, it's got to be that person, right? The news crews are all over it. How on earth could this happen? These poor people. Immediately draws up a sketch of a young white man with super, super short buzz cut hair. He goes to the hospital, and shortly after that, like the next day, by the way, the bullet must have just like grazed his head, right? I mean, there was nothing crazy wrong with him.
Yeah.
He admits that he has a pill problem. He resigns from his company, I guess, because they were trying to save him a little embarrassment, because they were firing him. But okay, he resigns from his company and he admits himself to rehab. We see this with like
Which
celebrities,
is also convenient, because that's where you go. That's where you go when you don't want to get arrested, because they can't come get you.
Right. I feel as if people admit themselves to rehab to say, I'm guilty, but it's because I had this addiction. That's why I stole $3 million from you, you poor people that needed it way more than I did. So not long after this shooting on the side of the road, we actually find out that it isn't this young white man that shot Alex. We find out that it's his drug dealing buddy, long lost, distant cousin, Curtis Smith, right?
Yeah.
Gretchen?
Right.
Okay. So Curtis, he goes by Cousin Eddie. Don't fucking ask me why. I don't know if that's his like drug name or what, but Alec admits that he hired Eddie to kill him in an attempted suicide so that Buster could collect. It's like a suicide murder, basically. Like Alec wanted to commit suicide, but he couldn't commit suicide because he had this life insurance policy that he didn't realize that even if he did commit suicide, he would have got the money anyways. And he was
Which is why I think, by the way, I tend to believe more of this Cousin Eddie guy, because Alec is an attorney. He knows how to read a life insurance policy, right?
It's fake news. Alec is not going to kill himself.
His story just does not make any sense.
By the way,
I don't understand. He wanted to make it.
He says that
it does. None of it. That part is is a mystery.
It still is a mystery, but what I believe is that he called this guy who he had been paying a lot of money to for drugs. I don't know what else he was paying this guy money for. It's a lot. It was like $2.3 million over the years. It's a lot of money. Could he spend $2.3 million on drugs, on opiate pills? I mean,
it would have been hard.
I think he owed this guy money for other things.
It would have been hard.
I just don't know.
He did not look like someone, from my experience with people on opioids, he did not look like someone who was doing that $2.3 million worth of
He
drugs.
said,
And people have attested that he did not. We all know when someone is popping pills or whatever, or something. We know, you can smell it a while away. They have a drink and then all of a sudden they're wasted, or like whatever.
100%.
People are saying that was not the case for him.
No, I think he did have an addiction to them. Sure. Was he taking 60 to 100 codons, whatever they're called, a day? I don't think so. I tried to read like if people have done that before, and there were a couple nurses that had said they had seen, or they had actually had some people that said they did, but they were like, we don't believe it. And I don't know if I believe it either. Like, I do think he was taking some, probably a lot, but he also functioned as an attorney. He also was super smart. He stole all these people's money. He had it together. People say he was so charismatic, super nice guy, always doing stuff. My husband had to take like a handful of those pills because he had that kidney stone. He was not functioning as well as he usually does. Okay. So anyways, I think he called cousin Eddie to the side of the road, which is now Eddie's story, or Curtis, whatever the fuck you want to call him, is because he's like, hey, help me with this tire. Curtis is like, sure, whatever, bud. Comes there. And then I personally think he was going to kill Curtis. And it was like Curtis was going to kill him.
Yeah, I mean, that would make more sense because what Curtis says is,
and then that's the guy that killed.
Curtis says that he was like, hey, you're going to kill me or something. And there was a scuffle with the gun.
Right.
Because Curtis is like, if I was paid to kill him, I wouldn't miss. I don't miss.
He wouldn't have missed.
Whatever. And so then there's the scuffle with the gun. And he's like, this is so bizarre. Yeah, I believe that too. Because he admits he was there, and he says, and then he fled the scene because he's like, I don't want to be mixed up in all this. This is totally bizarre. Why did this guy just call me to the side of the road and then
have like a scuffle with the gun? Yes.
Yeah.
I believe so too. Curtis is, I think he's got, a few colors in the crayon box missing. He also is a meth head. They found meth in his house. It's clear as day. He is a drug addict. So the guy doesn't have it all. All the cylinders are not shooting off the right way. Okay. So this poor guy is like just doing what this rich guy who's been paying him fucking shitload of money wants him to do. And then take that guy out. Alec doesn't give a flying F about him. He's like nothing to society and Alec's point, right? So
he's just a pawn in Alec's game, but not sure exactly how Alex thought it was going to play out, but it did not go the way Alex intended. We know that.
No, it didn't. But I don't think the guy's.
And I don't even believe his whole like, I wanted the $10 million, life insurance policy to go to my one remaining son, because I don't think he even gave a shit. Also, his dad was on like death's door, this wealthy family. So wouldn't Buster have still gotten? I'm sure that kid has a trust fund.
He had already died. Be
taken care of.
The dad had died by the time he had tried to kill himself or kill Curtis or something.
All those properties, I'm sure, have been paid off forever.
You know what?
Like Buster was going to be fine.
Yes, kind of. Yeah, probably. I mean, from his grandfather, but not from Alec because Alec's like in tons of debt. But yes, you're right. That is fake news. That is not true. I know he went up on the stand and said that he's a liar, liar, pants on fire. He is the biggest liar, liar, pants on fire. If anybody, he's the biggest. I don't think I've seen someone like him yet. This is all new to me. Yeah. Okay, so this happens, and investigators at this point are trying to really piece this crazy saga together. And then after 9 months of this double homicide, they were able to crack Paul's phone open. They weren't able to up until this point. It was a while later. And these phones, you guys, holy cow, they track everything now. They track how many steps you're taking, how fast you're taking them, the Snapchat stuff that the kids are on. I mean, they are like, it's, Snapchat, you like send something and then it disappears into like thin air. Well, it doesn't disappear. All right.
But not really. Yeah.
But not really. So they uncover a video taken on Paul's phone shortly before he died of a dog. His friend's dog was at the kennel and had something wrong with his tail. So his friend asked for a video. And on the video, you can hear 3 voices: Maggie's, Paul's, and Alex's. And remember, Alex said over and over and over that he was not at the kennels that night. He said the last time he saw his wife and son were at dinner. He says it so matter-of-factly. He is not frantic. He's not even crying. By the way, here's another thing. In all the police interviews that he did, he calls Paul Paul. He calls Maggie. When he gets on the stand and it's like, Papa this and bug that and Mama that. It's like so BS, dude.
It's such an act.
It's such an act. So anyways, so he's super clear and concise. So why would he lie about that? Why would he lie if he didn't have anything to hide? And let me tell you, they have a lot of evidence, right? They have like a lot of this stuff. And I'm not going to get into all the minutia, but they collected bullet evidence. They did not collect the guns, but they do have, the same bullets that the people owned came from guns that they also own.
But they are guns that the family does own. Yes.
Yes.
On the surface, it does seem like he had a good argument. There were 2 guns used and, he made all these phone calls and whatever. But then when you look at it a little more intensely, it's like, well, actually he sped like 80 miles an hour to like get to where he was going. And he made all these phone calls frantically. I mean, he's a lawyer. He knows everything you need to do to provide reasonable doubt. And so if you were thinking about it, it would be smart to use 2 guns to make it look like there were 2 people.
That's right.
And then make those guns disappear. I mean, so I think he thought it through.
He definitely thought it through. And I can tell you, I can throw all of the other evidence away. Like everything. The jacket, the guns, the bullets, throw it all away. The fact that video came out, that he is at the scene of the crime and he said he wasn't, means guilty. Like, I don't care if they had nothing else. I think he still would have been found guilty because of that. Like, you cannot say you weren't there and then you were there. Like, what the fuck are you doing there?
And it just puts in that if you lied about that,
what else are you lying about?
What else are you lying about?
Yeah. So according to the phone evidence, Maggie and Paul were at the dog kennels at 8:38. Mind you, Paul's phone was back at the house. It had no movement at all during this time, which was probably on purpose, right? He knows this shit. So they were at the dog kennels at 8:38. The theory is, and what I think is, they probably all 3 got in the golf cart to go out there. Paul's walking around with his phone. He's Snapchatting all over. He's calling his friends. He's talking about this dog tail. And then at 8:44, he records that video of the dog where the 3 are heard. Then at 8:48, he sends a snap to somebody. And then at 8:49:01, Paul's phone locks for good. At 8:49:26, Maggie's phone unlocks. It accesses a group text and then it locks at 8:49:31. And it's not unlocked again until the very next day, where somebody finds it a quarter mile away. At 8:53, Maggie's phone records 59 steps. And I think it's probably because Maggie's phone was in the golf cart the whole time they were walking around those kennels. And maybe when she heard the steps or the first shot, because we know that Paul was shot first, she went to grab her phone, unlocked it, and then ran and she was shot. Or she put it back down. I think also what happened, and this is a good theory that I've kind of read, is maybe the phone was in the golf cart. Alec doesn't realize he's actually got Maggie's phone when he gets back to the house. That's why it's 59 steps, because he took it, placed it in his car so he could toss it out the window on the way to his mom's house, which is, I'm pretty sure, what happened. Because her phone changes direction to portrait, vertical to horizontal, and it does have 59 steps after 8:53, and that's it. At 9:02, Alec's phone comes back to life. It records steps, and then he begins calling Maggie's phone. Also, when he calls Maggie's phone, it looks like Maggie, or whoever had Maggie's phone, which was probably him, just places it on a do not disturb, I don't want to hear it ring.
Yeah.
Push that little button real quick. So another thing is, supposedly he's calling Maggie's phone at 9:02 or 9:06, whatever time he calls her, to tell her he's going to his mom's house, right? But if he was just at the dog kennels with them 5 minutes before, why would he need to tell her that? She would already know that.
Of course.
So there's where it just it's not adding up. At 9:08, he texts Maggie that he's going to see be right back. And then he does what you said. He calls a bunch of people on his way to his mom's. He arrives at his mom's house at 9:24. She's asleep. The caregiver is there, which is no shit, dude. She's old and she's sick. She's not going to be awake. Why are you going to your mom's house at 9:24? That also doesn't make sense. He sits at the end of the bed on his phone, is what the caretaker says, for maybe 20 minutes. And then he leaves, arriving back home at 10:01. He makes that 911 call 18 seconds or 19 seconds after he drives to the kennels, which also they say is just not enough time to see both of your family members dead, check to see if they're alive, and then call 911. I don't know. I mean, it seems to me that Paul was in dire straits. There was no way that you could think that he was breathing at all. But would you go over there and check? I don't know.
Well, also, I mean, what I heard them argue is like, so if it wasn't you, who we know was there, who was it that knew that Maggie would be here when she never is, like not regularly, and Paul? And there was only really an 11-minute window for them to have come in and committed the murders in the middle, in this house, in the middle of the country, area. There's no way for them to even see it from a distance. How would they have known? And you've not seen them. He says he didn't see them on the road when he was leaving, because it's such a random country road. You would see another car.
Who would know that they were there? No one. No one would know. No one would know that they were going to be at the dog kennels at that time. It doesn't make sense.
Well, I would understand. Honestly, the whole vigilante thing is I can imagine if my daughter that was killed in that boating accident and I had to see that little piece of shit walk away, in his collared shirt, never even get handcuffed, whatever.
Listen,
I don't know that I could refrain myself from going and shooting him and the bitch that raised him, because, they had no compassion for this girl and her family.
I know. I would say.
But it wasn't anybody else. They're better people than us, it was Alex.
Well, once you saw that timeline, it just is what it is. Even when he takes the stand about, lying about his whereabouts, which, dude, I mean, he does, right? He goes on the stand and he says that he was scared of the police and he had this drug habit that made him paranoid. And that's why he said he wasn't there, which it's dude, you were the police.
Okay.
You're not scared.
Okay.
Of the
One
police.
thing that I do want to say about this trial is it is one of the most boring trials I've ever watched. And the reason is because when he was on the stand, he tried spinning every last goddamn thing around. And you know what? The attorneys, I think the prosecution and the defense, they were no match for him. I mean, he kind of railroaded them. He had them confused, shaken up, and then we've got to get back to this other thing, and you just want to bang your head against the wall because he is a master manipulator. Thank God the jury still found him guilty.
I know. While Alex coming up with this amazing excuse as why he lied at being at the scene of the crime, investigators were uncovering all of Alex's true colors. I told you earlier that he was stealing money from his law firm and his friends. And I don't even think that really bothers me as bad as this. He was stealing money from innocent poor people that were seeking justice for wrongful deaths, wrongful injuries, all these lawsuits that they should have been given money. He was like Tom Girardi. What's his name? Girardi?
Yes. Yeah. Girardi.
Yes.
Yeah.
Girardi style.
Erica Jane. Husband,
Erica Jane.
crooked lawyer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He is also taking these people's money and putting it in his own bank account. He set up, what he did is crazy. He sets up a bank account that looks like a name of some actual legit company, and he just starts siphoning it all in there, which brings me back to the housekeeper, Gloria Satterfield, who passed away a year before Mallory. Listen, she falls down and she's 56. Okay. So she's not an old lady. She falls up the stairs is what they said. She's walking up the stairs. She falls and dies. Maggie is the one that called 911. Also, I don't like her 911 call. It's like my housekeeper fell and she's not getting up. It's like, I would be so frantic. I would be like, oh my God.
Shaken, scared. Yes.
My dog's, and then it's like, oh, my dog's tripped her and that's how she fell. It wasn't on the 911 call. And Gloria had raised
You wouldn't even know that that's what happened, right?
No.
You wouldn't even know that that is what happened. Dogs, whatever.
No.
And people survive and fall down the stairs more often than they don't. It's like, oh, she fell, she's dead.
But she didn't even fall down. She fell
It's
up
like it wasn't the Empire State Building. It's like 10 feet. Yeah.
at the most. So at Gloria's
Yeah.
funeral, Paul tells her 2 sons to sue his estate. And Alex like helps finagle the whole deal. Like, here's an attorney. Here's how you do it. And he gets $4.3 million. Dude, that's a lot of freaking money. And not 1 cent did he give to her 2 sons. Not one. He took it.
Well, they didn't even know that it went through. Needed the sons to file the wrongful death suit against his homeowner's insurance. Then him and this other piece of shit lawyer who it's coming out he did a bunch of crooked, deals with.
All of them
were in cahoots to take the money from these sons. So the sons, they never even knew that the suit went anywhere. They didn't even give him a penny, not even like, here's 100 G's out of the 4 point whatever million. I mean, so catty.
And that is just one of the many, you guys, that he did. And he wouldn't take, 4.3, that's significant, right? That's change your life kind of money. That's winning the lottery kind of shit.
And again, if you're going to be this backwards, he had to have known her sons. And you're going to be this backwards to the children of someone that worked for you for 20 years that you know. How are you going to just treat any rando that comes into your law office that needs help? I mean,
I don't know.
It runs deep.
Deep. Yes, very deep. He has screwed over every single person that he's known, including his family, including his kids, including every single person. And I don't care how many opioid pills you're taking. It's not an excuse.
They are reinvestigating her death. So they've exhumed her body.
Yes, they have, which I don't know. How much are we going to find out
still unfolding.
Now? Who knows? We're going to see about that. There's also another very suspicious death that occurred in 2015 when 19-year-old boy named Stephen Smith was found dead in the middle of a country road. His car was 3 miles away with the gas cap open. The police ruled this a hit and run, but Stephen didn't really look like he got hit by a car. His shoes were still on, which they say if somebody gets hit by a car, your shoes fall off. He didn't have any road rash. He had blunt force trauma to his head. It was very suspicious. And I don't think they did an autopsy on him either.
He was also in the middle of the road.
Yes, he was in the middle of the road.
If you're a hit and run victim, you are sent flying either to one, like, don't you always wonder? I always wonder, how come when you see a dead deer or something, they're always on the side of the road?
Because I think they get thrown to the side.
Nobody moved them over there. They either, made a couple limps or they went flying.
Yeah.
According to my husband.
Yeah. I haven't hit a deer.
Same thing with a person.
Yeah.
Well, I have seen them.
I have seen them too. So after Stephen's death, the police got more than 24, actually I think 40 is what I read, calls stating that they thought Buster Murdaugh should be looked at into regarding the death of Stephen. Stephen was a gay man, and most people would probably say this is an anti-gay town. The rumor on the street is that Buster possibly wanted Stephen dead, but they never, ever, ever, ever questioned Buster about this. They are also...
Well, the word on the street was that Buster had a relationship with Stephen of a sexual nature. That's what the streets were saying. There is no proof of anything, but that is the rumor. Mm-hmm. And so my personal thought, and we do know that Stephen talked to Buster that day. They had enough of a friendship, according to his family on interviews, that Buster was somebody, if Stephen had run out of gas, he would have called him and said hey buddy, can you help me out or whatever. What I just am speculating happened is that because of all these rumors and stuff going around, maybe Buster had other people in the car or something. And they said hey, they made a homophobic comment or something about him being gay. And he's I'll show you how not gay I am. I'll kill this dude.
I know that is your theory. The weird thing is that his phone was still in the car and his wallet. So maybe he's at,
if
waiting
he was going to go get gas, why would he have left?
Yeah. He also wouldn't
have made
open
any sense.
You wouldn't open the gas cap up. Maybe Buster said, I'm coming with the gas. And so he opened the gas cap up to wait, be ready to pour it in. And then they hit him over the head and dropped him on the side of or in the middle of the road, really. Somebody killed him. I don't know who killed him. This is all just speculation. Buster is an innocent man at this point. We don't know what is going on with that case, but I think they're going to look into it further as well. So these are just interesting things.
They did reopen that investigation.
Which they should.
I do just think it's interesting because they should. Certainly, it is really actually terribly sad that it has taken all this high profile shit for Stephen's family to get justice.
Yeah.
That they would even,
they really need to look at Stephen's phone. You are going to be able to see what his last moves were. Who did he call last? Did he text somebody? Did he say, I'm out of gas? Can you come and bring me some? These are the things that are really easy to find out if they could just do a little investigation. So hopefully we'll see something back on that. So now back to Alex's trial. You guys, right when I was writing this, it came in as I was in the tornado shelter. But prosecution basically
3 hours of deliberation.
Oh, I know nothing. It was so crazy. But
yeah.
Prosecution basically told you what I told you, except for like a lot more with these guns and like the bullets and the tarp that maybe was a rain jacket that they found, the Snapchat, all that stuff, right? I don't know if we want to get into the rain jacket. He brought a rain jacket to his mom's house. It had gunshot residue on it. They think maybe he wrapped the guns to like disperse of them and then took the rain jacket to his mom's. He also asked the caretaker to lie about what he was wearing that day. He also had a different outfit on when he called the police and when he was in the Snapchat video. So there's a lot of stuff going on. Alex denied everything. He got on the stand. He said, I am a cheating, lying asshole, and I have done a lot of bad things, but killing my family is not one of them. I am a drug addict. I paid, Curtis all this money for drugs. And that's where all my money went, which it's like, no, it didn't. I don't know where your money is, Alec, but maybe you have a gambling problem. Maybe you paid somebody I don't know. I don't know where all his money went. I don't think it all went to pills. He also kind of alluded that maybe these drug lords were out for his family because he couldn't pay for the pill popping anymore. I don't buy it.
Yeah.
So anyways, let's just get past his lying and crying. Oh, he was up on the stand, you guys. That's kind of where I got into it. Like, this guy is so emotional, but let's be honest. He knows exactly when to throw the emotion out there. The way that he talked about them, the way he gave them nicknames, he thought he was playing all y'all watching and the jurors. But the fact of the matter is he was only playing himself because nobody bought his bullshit. Thank God, because the jurors had to sit through 28 days. And so I'm sure they were like, oh my God, seriously, all I needed was a timeline. I don't need his financial bullshit. But they went back and I think they said one of the jurors was not guilty and maybe 2 were undecided. The rest were guilty. And within 45 minutes, they were able to come to a unanimous verdict. And then I think they just waited it out for the next 2 hours, because it was like 2 hours 30 or 45 minutes is when they came out and said, we have a verdict.
They had to use an alternate because one of them
was
discussing the case, and they made all the headlines were like, and she wasn't leaving the court without her dozen eggs.
She said, so I was like watching it live at that time. The judge tells her, like the judge says, like, or he says, okay, go get this juror. We're going to take her off. Make sure she has all her stuff. Well, they didn't make sure she had all her stuff. And so I think she kind of knew because they were asking her the day before. They had lots of meetings with her about like, what did you do? Who did you tell? And she told 3 people, I think probably that she was on this case and probably that it wasn't looking good. I don't know what she was telling him.
Well, it was probably stinking up the jury room if she's having a dozen eggs all the time.
No, because this is what happened. Another juror brought all the jury members eggs that day. And so she wanted to keep them. So, because she said, oh, one of the jurors brought all these eggs for us. And he goes, well, do you want to keep them? And she's like, yes. And I don't blame her, dude. You get what? Like $7 a day or some bullshit for this job? Like, give me my damn eggs before you fire me. And I don't even get to finish this out. Give her eggs. 100%. Take them.
I won't egg shame her anymore.
No way. She deserves all of them. And so then they brought in a random, I think there was only 2 left of so they brought in, they just hat pick and it was a gentleman. And I was a little worried because I was like, oh no, you never know. I think a woman would convict him over a man personally. But so I was a little bit worried that they picked this alternate and it happened to be a man, but I guess it didn't matter because they found him guilty. The other thing is, okay, so then fast forward. Okay, he has no emotion when they find him guilty. He doesn't cry, which I would expect an innocent person to do.
That is my theory. That is my long-standing theory, which it's perfect. I did not realize he did not cry, but it's when innocent people are convicted, they like go into like convulsions, ugly cry.
I would say, I would think that I would be like, it's not true. It's not true.
Guilty people have no emotion when the verdict is read.
Well, he didn't.
They see it coming.
And his son didn't either. And then the judge says, okay, sentencing will be at a later date. I know people probably are going to talk and they need to like get their heads around that. And both of the sides said we could do this tomorrow morning at 9:30, which shocked me a little bit, but I'm like, okay, we're going to, get this thing done. So they showed back up and there were no victim impact speeches. The sister of Maggie did not get up there and talk for her sister. No one did, not a friend. And maybe they still are scared of this family. I don't know. I mean, that's the rumor on like news sites, but I don't always believe that stuff. We actually, Gretchen, we have a friend on our Patreon and she lives a mile from Buster. And so she's like,
in Hilton Head?
Yes. She's like,
yeah,
I'll give you all the details. So I wrote her back and I said, I gave her all these questions. So I think on Patreon this week, we will be talking about it, what she has to say. 'Cause she's got like the dirt, right? She lives there. So I kind of want to know what the talk on the actual town is, not what, is the talk in entertainment world. So anyways, they come back for the sentencing. Nobody talks except for Alec himself, where he says that he's innocent and there's no way that he could ever have killed them. And then the judge goes on a pretty decent rant, but I liked it. I thought he's a really good judge. He was just like, dude, I know your family. I know who they are. I have seen you here and there, and I can't believe that you're the one that did this, but there is so much evidence against you that maybe it wasn't you, but it was the monster inside of you. It was you on drugs. It was you snapping out of who you really are.
And desperate and all of that.
But it was you.
What is interesting about this case to me is that it's like, we've all seen 1,048 hours or, whatever Dateline episodes where they, show the picture of the family. And just like in those cases, we saw that with the Murdaughs, they look like this beautiful family, but all these details come out about them. I don't think Maggie lit up a room. It's a little complicated emotions because nobody deserves to die. And I certainly feel for her family didn't deserve to go through this or anything, but it's like, I think she was an awful person. I think her son was a pretty awful person.
Yes. I think also, no one came up to say anything, just like, hey, even the son, right? Even the son could have come up and said, I really am sad that my mom and my brother are not here anymore. But I don't think my dad did it. But I do want to speak on behalf of my mom and my brother and say that I am sorry that they're dead. I don't know, if you can't do that, I don't know what the parameters of this are, but anybody come speak on their behalf. It's just so sad. So yeah, you're right.
Oh.
I'm like the sister, anyone? The sister went up on the stand and basically said,
well, even when the sister, and she was a witness for the defense, or no, she was a witness for the prosecution.
Yeah, because she said that he didn't.
They were like,
he didn't call.
Yeah. It's pretty.
And I'm sorry this episode ran way longer, but I'm telling you, it's really hard to get this whole friggin' thing all wrapped up because it's just a crazy, crazy case. But I think that they made the right decision. Also, talk on the town was that he was going to be acquitted. All these defense attorneys were like, oh, nope, he's going to be acquitted. He's going to be acquitted. And I thought to myself, there's just no way. If you are a logical person.
Yeah. It's hard time thinking because that the jury was going to get confused because it was so effing boring.
I know the financial stuff was so long and boring. There were lots of boring parts, but it didn't matter. It really came down to that short timeline and him being there and saying he wasn't. Had he said, oh my God, I just left them. I went to my mom's. I don't.
Right. Right.
I don't know what happened. I cannot believe this. I had just been there. This is impossible. I was just there.
Right. You're
That
right.
is more believable, but he didn't
Mhm.
think that he was on that video. He didn't probably know that his son was taking that video. That is
Yeah,
it.
you know, I also want to say I am really happy with the life sentence because I think it's worse
Oh,
for
yeah.
him in
Yeah.
this case.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Like
Dude,
he
by the
needs to
way,
do life is going to be miserable for him. I would much rather see him locked up forever without any of his privileges than
man.
and he's not going to the kind people prison, okay?
I, by the way, cannot even imagine how his life is going to be in prison with all those people that his family locked up. Think about it. He is going to be there with people that just hate his family. So it's not going to be fun. I think it is going to be torturous. And if he really wanted to commit suicide on the side of the road, probably now is a good time to make that happen officially. I'm just saying, like, not that I think people should kill themselves, but if he really was going to do it, now's about the right time. There also was really no emotion at that either. Buster had no emotion and Alec had no emotion on the sentencing. The only thing was, like, he just said twice that he would just not ever kill his son, Paul, and his wife, Maggie. So
well, I'm really excited to hear about that from this listener about the Buster situation because
me too.
He's had this longtime girlfriend. She's with him in court all the time. And I'm like, girl, what's up?
Yeah, I don't know.
He got kicked out of law school.
I know.
So he can't. Oh, that's the other thing. His sister testified, Maggie's sister testified in court that Alec was also not only talking about how he's going to clear Paul's name. Like, Paul's dead. Who cares? Right?
Yeah.
With the boating accident. But the other thing he's talking about right after the murders is, what do we got to do to get Buster reinstated in law school?
Oh my God. And you guys,
insane.
The HBO special I did think was better than the Netflix one. So if you have not watched that one, it shows these conversations that Buster and his dad have had while he's been in prison. And you're just mind blown. You're like, how is this guy talking like nothing happened? And Buster's like, I went to Vegas. He's like, oh, did you get to gamble? It's like, with whose money? Because your family owes a lot of money.
Yeah.
I mean, Buster doesn't owe a lot of money, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a situation. So,
well, it's over, but it's not over because the Mallory Beach family, they settled their wrongful death lawsuit, but 2 open investigations still with the housekeeper. What's her name? Gloria
Satterfield and Stephen
Smith.
Satterfield.
Yeah. And Stephen Smith still. So let's hope for fingers crossed for some justice for those 2.
Yeah, we shall see.
Yeah,
and then Alex still has, and the same judge is presiding over his next trials, which he'll go for all the fraud that he did. But he's already in prison for life. They're going to just tack on 20, 40, 60 years. I don't know. He will be charged for that, though, soon.
Yeah.
Or he's just going to plead guilty. That's what he should do. He already said he was guilty, so there's no use in going to a trial. He should just plead guilty and get sentenced.
Totally, right?
Yeah. Save us all.
Yeah.
But that's
maybe they could do
today.
something like take his houses and stuff like that so that money can go into.
I think that's already happening. That's what I read.
Yeah, just as long as whatever. I'm all for them continuing to try him if it means that the victims are going to get some of their money back.
I don't know. We'll see. We shall see. But okay, so that's a whop on that. If you guys want to hear our Patreon coming up, go to patreon.com/Housewives of True Crime or follow us on Apple subscription. That's an easy way to get us on Thursdays. Gretchen does a bonus crime every single month, and we just talk shop on the others. But we have been doing kind of more crime stuff lately just because there's been so much crime in the news, which, I mean, it's never ending, people. And follow us on all the socials. And if you want to watch us, we're on YouTube at Housewives of True Crime. Please go there, follow us, like us, do all that fun stuff that we need you to do. And I think that's it. Oh, and I'm going to see Gretchen this week. Actually, I'm seeing her tomorrow.
Oh my God.
That's so fun.
Yeah,
Gretchen.
technically.
Live in person. Technically, I'll be there on Tuesday.
Live and in person.
Live and in person.
Yeah.
We have a event to go to, and we'll talk more about that on Thursday also. So we'll chat with you then. Clink, clink.